Good morning, Titans Nation. Welcome back in to another edition of the Morning Glory Show. Happy for everybody that's joining us on this beautiful Thursday morning. We got my wonderful co-host, as always, Jonathan Miller at Esports Vale and B Will at B Will TFTV and TFTV Sports. You can follow me at Glory Days Sports on all social medias. How we doing today, boys? How you doing, Jonathan?
Good, doing pretty good. We'll see how the discussion goes. We got Big Will back, so the yin and the yang is complete.
Yeah, we got optimism and the deceit, or not deceit, but opposite of optimism. I don't even know what you call that. But yeah, it's gonna be a fun one. B Will's been out for the last couple of weeks. I thought it was pretty interesting. He was out last week after Amani Hooker's 2 interceptions in the football game to seal the deal.
I had to go to one of those ayahuasca retreats with Aaron Rodgers and reevaluate myself.
Go into the dark room, and Titans fans are in a dark place right now, obviously, after the loss to the LA Chargers last week. But we're going to talk all things and recap that game, and then we're going to be talking about this upcoming matchup against the Minnesota Vikings at home. And I think it was pretty interesting. We got to see Will Levis back in the lineup this last week, and maybe his most complete game of the season, I would say. No interceptions, no turnovers, at least.
His most non-disastrous game of the season.
And that's improvement to me. I mean, he did not lose you the football game. And I think we did see some progression from when he was last in the lineup. So, Jonathan.
I think the biggest disaster for him was just him showing up.
Well, having him out there on Sundays. I think watching that game, though, there was nothing that Mason Rudolph would have done differently to win that football game. I think Will Levis may have had a slightly better performance. We do need to talk about the sacks because that is still a huge issue with Will Levis. And he was sacked, 7 times last Sunday. Yep. I believe he was accredited with 3 to 4 of those.
I think it was 2.
Well, he was accredited with 2. I would say
it felt like 3 to 4.
I would say it was 3 to 4.
Like 3 to 4.
Watching the game, and then the rest on the offensive line. So, Jonathan, for Will Levis, where have you seen the most drastic improvements from him this season? And what is that next step for him to get to that next level in this progression? We went from disaster to bad to okay this last weekend. What can we do to get this guy to play in like an NFL starting quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's optimism in that he is getting better as far as decision-making goes, right? Like he's not forcing terrible turnovers and trying to force plays and make them happen instead of taking what he has. And so, yeah, I mean, there's been progress in that regard. But I actually made a video on my TikTok channel that's all exclusively Titans called All Things Titans. And I said that this past game was actually a bigger indictment on Will Levis because we have the advanced data, right? So as much as we wanted to celebrate, or as much as I wanted to celebrate Will Levis after that game, regardless of the loss, the problem is that I think the advanced analytics kind of exposed him for what his biggest flaw is. And what that is just holding onto the ball, kind of guessing himself, maybe post-read, getting through a progression, or maybe skipping over a guy and then just kind of getting all jumbled mentally. That's the biggest issue he's having, because you don't go from the least amount of sacks in 4 games through Mason Rudolph starting to, now granted, there was a bye week baked into there. So it was 5 weeks, a 5-week sample size of 4 games for the Titans against others 5 games. So data is a little skewed by 1 game, but 0 sacks to 7 sacks in 1 game after you just changed the quarterback. That's the only thing you did differently. So we were praising the offensive line and how good they were looking. You have J.C. Latham, who is performing as a top rookie at his position. You have, some other guys playing very well, just from a PFF standpoint, advanced analytics. And so you look at the 7 sacks and you go, okay, if Will Levis he's got 2 of these officially contributed to himself. But I can't tell you how many times I watched him take a full drop back, have a clean pocket, hitch, sack. And that is some could say, well, the coverage was good, so he couldn't. There was nobody downfield. He escaped several times, which I liked. So in other words, he didn't force anything. He didn't see it, didn't have it. Boom, escaped the pocket. Cool. I'm down. I like that several times. But then the other half of those times where he didn't have anything downfield, he took a sack where he really, really should not have, and it was on him. The ball needs to be out. So can we say, yeah, there's progress there. He didn't force any bad throws. He ran the ball several times. He's still taking shots. He's still not sliding. And so that part of it is a little frustrating, especially because he came off of a 3.5 week injury where he took a shot to his shoulder. And so, yeah, there's progress, but I think it might be a bigger indictment on who he is as a quarterback right now, that there were 7 sacks when in the previous several weeks there were literally like one or two in the Detroit game, and then other than that 4 weeks of just no sacks. So yeah, I mean, I want to be optimistic here, and he didn't have a turnover game, which should be the bare minimum of your quarterback 90% of their games. But I wasn't necessarily excited about the performance of what felt like 123 yards and only 23 pass attempts. Not good by the offense. And so, yeah, I as much as I want to be encouraged, I think the advanced analytics and that 7 sack performance was more telling.
Yeah, I think we go back, and I'm just looking at the PFF numbers. 2.87 seconds to throw the football, time to throw last week. Second longest of his career, or this season for him. The Jets game was slightly worse, but we're looking at these 7 sacks on Sunday, 50% pressure to sack ratio, which is abysmal for a quarterback.
Yeah, that's atrocious. Yeah.
You have to get better at dirting the football. You have to throw it out of bounds. You can't go down to that because it just ruins the drive. And that paired with this offensive line and Leroy Watson getting these costly penalties. Ugh. Next you know, you're in 3rd and 27 and 3rd and 25. You've killed the drive at that point in time. But this isn't uncommon for him. We go back to the Green Bay game, it was 53.3%. And we're going from 7 sacks on Sunday. He had 8 in that one. In Indy, surprisingly, he didn't take a sack at all. But consequentially, that was also his best game in time to throw, 2.58.
It was also he played the least, right? Because he got hurt. So, again, this sample size
he was hurt. He got hurt in Miami. So that was the game he came and actually played, and they're like, all right, we got to shut him back down because he is actually hurt, apparently.
So Jake, hold on one second. I want to pause there because you just pointed something out that's really important. So there's been a big discourse between Brian Callahan and coaching efficiency. Should the coaching staff be fired? Which I've been seeing all over Twitter, which is asinine to me. But I understand why people are going there because we're a 2-7 football team. And then, of course,
still don't understand why people are going there. But
I don't either. And then the quarterback play, right? But what you just mentioned is a really big factor on why I think there's been inefficiency on the offensive side, because Brian Callahan's offense is meticulous. You set up the run to set up the pass, give yourself 3rd and short, make it manageable, convert, and dink and dunk down the field. If you are taking sacks that you shouldn't be, if you are getting costly offensive line penalties and you're backing yourself up, Brian Callahan has said it multiple times in press conferences this year where it's like, hey, there's not very many calls on the play sheet for 3rd and 22. You know what I'm saying? So it's like people get pissed as a fan base when they're dumping it off to Tony Pollard on a little screen that gets, 6 yards on 3rd and 19 and like, oh, why do we just punt it? Or they just do a draw play and it's like a, 6 or 7 yard run. Oh, what is he doing? What's Callahan doing? He's surrendering. He's at that point, he's surrendered. Like there's nothing in there. What is he going to have Will Levis try to take a 25-yard shot into?
That's the problem. People that are saying that, the people that are saying that have to use some sense. What are you going to call at 3rd and 25? You can't call anything. The problem is you just can't operate as an offense behind the sticks,
too, right? B. Will, it's like they're gonna drop all those dudes. It's just
they're gonna rush 3 and drop 8, and there's nothing you can do. So what you can do is do better on first and second down. That's what you can do better at.
Yeah.
But when you have a quarterback that's taking sacks, that's inefficient, that's not able to process things, and at least a league average level, you're going to have this. And the quarterback can make the offensive line a lot better. It's just not happening. So, I mean, we know where we're at with this team. We know where we're at with this quarterback and these quarterbacks. The problem is people don't know where they're at with the coaching staff, and that's a problem. You can't really evaluate the coaching staff based on this quarterback play that we had.
No.
You can look at the defense side of the ball and look what the coaching staff has done with the defense side of the ball. You can look what Brian Callahan's done hiring defensive coaches like that. Yes, we have a problem in special teams. That'll get sorted. That's easy. Fire the guy at the end of the season. But look at what he's done defensively with the team. He's got Amani Hooker looking like a league average player. It's exceptional. Coach of the year. But, you know, it goes to the fact of, for people that are calling for the coaching staff's head, are people that I just said don't understand what they're looking at. And I'd hate to be watching something this much throughout the year and not have a clue what I'm looking at. And that's what those people that are calling for that staffs are, or calling for the GM's head.
I feel like they're just trying to assign blame somewhere, right? And what I don't understand, and look, like, I was a part of the crowd. You guys know, everyone who's watching this show, who's been watching us for a while, you guys know that I have been very pro Levis, very pro Levis. I have been you might even call me a Will Levis apologist from last season, right? Like, the offensive line is poor, just give him some time, and 9 games isn't a big enough sample size, did the whole thing, right? But here we are going into week 11. We have not better play from Will Levis at all. It's not better. We just celebrated a 17 completion, 123-yard performance because there was 0 interceptions and 2 touchdowns associated to his name. And that was like, hey, that wasn't horrible. Our the bar is way, way low right now. Mm-hmm. And so I think we're getting to a point where it's like, okay, well, someone's got to assign the blame. Well, I'm telling all of you guys that there is blame to assign, and it's not just me like being an emotional fan that's saying the quarterback isn't good. It's me being completely objective and looking at the advanced analytics. It just told us what's going on. It just told us everything, not just the 1 sack that happened in 5 weeks, 4.5 or 3.5 of which were a different quarterback. It's not just the 7 sack performance that just happened to Will Levis. It's the time holding the ball. It's the all the other advanced analytics that are all pointing to the same thing, that this guy is not processing up quickly or well enough post snap, and it's throwing off the efficiency of the offense. So
what took people so long to come to this conclusion? That's what I'm trying to understand.
I mean, I think I got here after week 9. I think I arrived here fully after this past game, because the Lions game was kind of like, is Rudolph, and it was like kind of strange. But then the first game back for Levis, I think the Chargers game is kind of what did it for me. And what's funny is that most people were like, oh, this is his best game of the season. And I'm like, guys, this is not franchise quarterback play. And so a part of me is not 100% out on him, mostly because we have to watch him. We have to keep watching him play football anyway. He's going to be the guy regardless for the rest of the season. So there's like 5% of me that has a small sliver of hope. It is. There's a 5% of me that has this sliver of hope that something could happen, and I think there's still that chance. But I think Callahan told us 3 weeks ago when he said, we basically know what the quarterback situation is. And I think Callahan
told us 7 weeks ago when we were looking at his play calling, how conservative he was trying to protect Will Levis from himself. That's when he told us what his thoughts on Will Levis was. I mean, that was plain as day. But if you don't know what you're looking for, you're not really going to see that. You're just going to see, oh, Brian Callahan's being conservative with his play calling. Brian Callahan sucks at play calling. No.
I mean, his guys are getting open. His guys are getting open. And Mason
he has to do what he has to do to even give us remotely a chance to win. And for us to remotely have a chance to win, that's to get the ball, keep it out of the quarterback's hands with Will Levis back there. That's the chance you have to win. And he was trying to do that. So, it's just that's an indictment on Will Levis, and just shows that he's just completely derailed this team for this season. We had a decent roster. A roster that could have made some shake. But Will Levis has completely derailed this franchise this season because of his abysmal play, his abysmal attitude. It's just that's what needs to be talked about. The guy's a front runner and has been all year. He comes into the stadium with his head down. People thought I was crazy. I said, that's not how a quarterback's supposed to look. That's not how a leader of your franchise supposed to look. He looks like a punk coming in there. When I saw that, I said, yeah, this guy's done. I said that week 3. People thought I was crazy. No. I mean, that's a quarterback. That's supposed to be the leader of your team. You have the leader of your team walking into the locker room like that, that's a problem. It just is.
Agreed.
And then he goes out there and plays the way he does too.
He's so high, but those lows are so low, and there's no middleman. You got to be a leader of the football team, and if you're coming in like that, I mean, it just brings everybody else down. I mean,
yeah, his teammates are looking at him. Yeah, I mean, another thing, what was interesting, B. Will, is I thought about what you said, because you said that in like week 2 or something. It was really early in the season, and then I thought about it when I was watching these games where Will Levis was out, and he was on the sidelines, no pads, just kind of walking around like this or whatever. And I was reading his body language. And like Mason Rudolph would come over, he'd be sitting there with Simeon, and they're just kind of like going back and forth or whatever. If it was a good play, they were excited and whatever. If it was a bad play, they were going over it, sitting down, whatever. And Will Levis is just kind of like walking away from them. Like he wasn't really, and granted, this is just a TV shot of the sideline, so this could be completely, you don't read too much into this. But I did think it was interesting that he didn't seem very hands-on with the team during that time. And I don't know if that's a thing that the coaches say, like, hey, this is Mason's team. Like right now he's the guy, like let him do his thing. But to me, nothing has said that Will is not the franchise guy. So even if you're hurt, I still think engaging with your teammates and being active and kind of keeping that aura up is important. And he didn't really do that during that time either. So
you got to fake the funk, especially when you're on the field in front of the cameras. You have to fake the funk. You have to. Yep. And he's not doing that. I wouldn't be surprised if he's cut after this year, to be honest. I mean, just cut your money. The way he's
rookie quarterback, low money. They're not going to cut him.
Yeah, I don't think they'll cut him.
No, I'm saying I don't.
Rudolph being gone after this season as well.
But I'm saying
you're going to bring somebody.
I'm saying with his attitude, the way he's acting, not engaging on the sidelines, and as you said, we can't read into it too much.
Right.
But how much money are we having invested in him? If we draft quarterback in the first overall, second overall, how much money do we have invested in Will Levis?
Like
how much dead money do we have?
It's not.
Okay.
I'm
not sure
is that worth keeping around?
Well, yeah, it is because he's still on a rookie deal.
Absolutely not worth keeping around.
We had
30-some million in dead cap with Tannehill. That's off the books.
Yeah.
So
but this is like a couple $1 million though.
Yeah,
but it's not about the money at this point. It's about the impact he has on a locker room.
He's a back.
And
he's gonna be a backup.
That's not worth. No, it's still an impact on a locker room, and it's not worth a couple $1 million.
People don't.
It's
give a shit
not.
if he's sitting on the bench.
If he's sitting back and disengaged, he's no longer the.
If he's sitting back
guy,
disengaged,
I'm cool with that.
Yes, that's what I'm saying, and that's going to be the case.
Well, he'll be the backup, so you're not really looking for him to be that leader in the locker room.
Exactly, he's not the leader at that point.
But still, it's a carryover. He has no ties to this organization, to this regime. He's gone.
Yeah, bro, B-Will, his 2024 cap hit is $2.1 million.
Even more reason to cut him.
No.
That's what I'm saying. He's not. I don't think y'all understand what I'm saying. No, I'm not saying to cut him, and it's not anything out of – there's no emotion in this. This is factual. He's not tied to this regime. If he's showing the same body language that he's showing now, there is absolutely no reason to keep him.
As a backup.
Zero.
Would you prefer him or Trevor Siemian?
I prefer Siemian.
No.
Because if the backup's in the game, we're screwed. Who cares?
I don't know.
Who cares?
I think I would still stick with Levis even as the backup because I still think he has the ability to come in a pinch and throw a couple piss missiles.
Okay, B-Will, hold on. Sorry, Jake. Here, B-Will. Here. Just give you a little bit more incentive. His dead cap this year is almost $7 million. Sorry. This year was $8 million. His dead cap next year would be almost $7 million, 6.9.
So you cut him and you lose what, $5 million?
You cut him and you lose $4 million. Like you lose.
What is that? Cap goes up every year.
Bro,
what's $4 million in dead cap?
You can't get a backup.
I'm just saying, mark my words. He has no ties.
B. Weiland is accurate.
I'm just saying,
accurate on this one.
I wish it was like Reddit where you could do a remind me of 6 months.
Oh yeah,
just saying.
We won't forget. It'll be all right.
No, we'll be talking about it because that'll definitely be newsworthy for sure. Shout out to everybody in the comments: Stevie, MB, Chef Ran. We got lots of questions to get to. Starting with Chef Ran, he said, "Is Levis good enough? Will he even be ever be?" So I think that the answer to that is, and you kind of saw it on Sunday, is when he has protection, he has the physical ability to be a good quarterback. It's the mental stuff. It's the processing, not only pre-snap, but post-snap. I think he has improved pre-snap significantly from last season. We're getting up on the line faster. He's calling those audibles when he needs to. It's the diagnosing after that. He doesn't have a good job of identifying the blitz still pre-snap, and that's been an issue, and that's what's leading to a lot of these snaps. And I've got bad news for Titans fans. Minnesota is going to blitz us more than any team has this season. That is what they're doing.
Who do we not have to help with that pre-snap?
We don't have Lloyd, which is a huge one.
And that's the biggest thing right there. We don't have our center who calls out all the protections at the line of scrimmage. It's on the quarterback.
He ended up tearing his Achilles, correct? That was what ended up happening.
Unfortunately.
Wait. Was it Achilles or an ACL?
I think it was Achilles.
Maybe it's Achilles. You're right. I think you're right.
I'm pretty sure. I'll double check that here in just a second. But if it is an Achilles, that's something guys don't come back. Torn Achilles. That's something you don't come back from and be the same at the center position. I mean, that's going to be a tough, long recovery. So obviously, Corey Levin, Daniel Brandscola, whoever is playing center this week, they're going to do enough, but it's not going to make a difference. I mean, we look at these guys on this right side of the line. They're going to give pressure. We know that. They've done it every single week. Having be Leroy Watson, who I don't think is going to play in this game, just based on the injury report last week or yesterday. It's going to be a John Ojukwu or the corpse of NPF. It's going to be a Ojukwu. We know that. And that's something that he's going to struggle with. There's going to be pressure, and Will Levis has to do a better job of everything that we just talked about. Brian Callahan did talk about it yesterday. He did say Will Levis. Where did I have it? I had the notes, and I just scrolled it down. He did acknowledge that Will Levis' sack issues are something that can be fixed over time, which I tend to disagree with. I think it can get slightly better, but it's not going to get to the point where we're looking at lowering this pressure to sack percentage significantly. He pointed out that some of the sacks were not entirely on Will Levis, but I think a lot of them were. The offensive line as a whole needs to take responsibility. However, Callahan did say that Levis could improve his decision-making, especially in situations where he should throw the ball away or take a safe gain rather than holding on the ball too long. Callahan believes that with experience, Levis will develop a better mental clock for when to release the ball quicker, thus reducing the number of sacks in the future games. I just don't agree with that. I think he is the mold of what he is. We go back to even at Kentucky. This is a guy that's held the ball long going back. His junior year was his best season when he was healthy and he had some talent around him. He had a good offensive line, and that's what got him to be a draftable prospect. You're not drafting him off that senior year, which when he lost that, he turned into a pumpkin. It's unfortunate. So if we had the Detroit Lions offensive line, I think Will Levis could be a competent starter and maybe upper echelon just because of the physical talent he has. But that's never going to be the case in Tennessee. We're not spending another first-round pick on a right tackle. I hate to break it to you guys. It's got to be an issue that can be resolved through coaching or game planning. But at the end of the day, Will Levis, this is what we're going to get. He's going to get slightly better as he ages, but we're not going to turn a corner, in my opinion.
Do people realize how ugly this can get Sunday with Brian Flores? He's one of the best defensive minds in the league.
Double digits is not out of the realm.
And he's putting 8-9 guys at the line of scrimmage. That's what I was going to ask y'all. Do y'all think if Levis plays, which he should, Are we going to see more sacks this week than we saw last week?
I'm going to say no, just because of the outlier.
7 was a lot.
7 is a lot.
But I think it could be 7 again. Easily. I think it could be 7 again.
Who do they have? So they have Grenard.
They have Brian Flores.
I'm talking about their pass rush.
That's all you need to know. They got Brian Flores.
Do I know?
I'm just thinking about their defensive line and what this matchup on the right side is going to be. Is it John Grenard? Is that his name? Grenard?
It's not really going to be like that though, because he muddies up the line of scrimmage and he's sending guys from all different directions. So it's really
Grenard, we're going to see Bullard.
Yeah, but it's not going to be the same guy on Ojukwu each time.
No.
That's why it's a big issue with Cushenberry being out. Because Cushenberry would have helped. Cushenberry would have helped IDing some of these defenders that are coming, the blitzers, and we're not going to have that. So that's why I say it can really possibly get ugly. And I'm just saying. That's why I was wondering if y'all think it'll be over 7 or under 7, but I think it'll be right at 7.
I'll take the under. I'll take the under, but pressure is going to be there. I think there's going to be just as much pressure, and hopefully we see a slight improvement out of Will Levis. That's what I'm hoping for, and I think that's probably what's going to happen. He's going to get slightly better as he plays more games, but it's not going to be enough to call him a franchise guy at the end of the season, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean that's what's been trending. That's the way it's been trending all year. To answer Chef Rand's question, I think not. I think that he's probably not good enough. I think he's talented enough. I think the biggest problem he has is a mental thing. Mentally, he's regressed. And the mental aspect of quarterback play is just as important as the physical aspect. And if you can't get both of those right, if both of those don't get in sync, then you have a problem. And Brian Callahan is saying, well, if he gets enough reps, then he can close the gap enough to where we can work with him and he can continue to get better. And that you can kind of live with. But if we don't see that like now, right, the rest of this year, they've given him an entire year. They've stuck to the plan that we were assuming they were going to, or hoping that they would at the start of the season, which is Levis gets the keys for the season. If he's terrible, we go quarterback. If he's not, then we build on that. But my worry, and I think all of our worries collectively were, if Will Levis is good enough to win 6 or 7 games and it puts you picking, outside of the top 10 or maybe on the cusp fringe 10, well, then now you're screwed. you're screwed. So I don't know. We'll see.
I don't think we have to worry about that one anymore, partner. That was a worry in the very beginning of the year. I think we can rest easy.
Yeah, at 2-7
with Levis at quarterback.
Yeah. I'm kind of leaning that way too. Yep.
I think what you're hoping for as Titans fans is you're looking at last week with Minnesota and really these last couple weeks. They scored 12 points against Jacksonville. And that's a Doug Peterson team that is holding on by a thread right now. They have the number 1 overall pick as of today. So you're hoping to see that team come in this week and potentially Will Levis can improve and they can race them to 21 points. That's what we're looking at. And then
wait, Jake, I think that was the Colts, right?
No, they beat the Colts 21-13.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
They won 12-7 in Jacksonville last week.
This Minnesota team is starting to become fraudulent.
They've been fraudulent for the last several years. They always have a good record, and at the end of the day, it's not what it seems to be on paper. Yeah. And Sam Darnold, there was talks of Sam Darnold MVP earlier in this season. He's turning back into what we know Sam Darnold comes to be. We're seeing that with Derek Carr. We're seeing that with Baker Mayfield. They're all coming back to where they're average.
Coming back to the mean.
Yep. So, that goes to show you at the end of the season, there's going to be talks from this fan base that go get one of these guys. Sam Darnold obviously is a free agent. You're going to get talks of that. And then the Matthew Stafford talk, which I heard Football and Other F Words, they were talking about that earlier yesterday, actually last night.
I'm so in for Stafford.
And I was about to bring that up. We talked about that a month ago on this show as Stafford is a potential option for us.
People laughed at me. I called him a legitimate trade candidate at the trade deadline, but I got laughed at.
I would actually be interested.
Who did that? Who laughed at you?
All of TikTok.
I'm not saying I don't think I did.
No. Stafford is good Levis, in my opinion. He's older. Obviously, you're not going to get a lot of that of him, but I mean, maybe that's an option. You draft a guy too. And
here's
a
bridge. There's a really good bridge. It's not going to happen.
Here's the thing. That's the only bridge I'd be receptive to. The rest of the bridge is absolutely not. Stafford, I would take. The rest of them, no. I wouldn't take another guy in the league.
No, I'm not retreading one of these first-round picks bridge that were busts that have upgraded. No,
that's a Tannehill. That's like, I don't think people learned with Tannehill. That's the same exact process as Tannehill.
It's QB purgatory. We've talked about it for years now as Titans fans, and you're just retreading that if you're entertaining that. It's either go draft a guy early that has talent, which Shedeur Sanders obviously are one. There's a couple other guys that might be potential options, but they're a caliber down. And with quarterbacks, it's a Wild West. You never know what you're going to get out of a quarterback prospect, or Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold and Caleb Williams would be playing like an MVP right now.
But here's the thing: even taking Stafford is very, very, very selfish of us as fans to even think that.
Yeah,
it just is, and it's not. It's not right.
At the trade
like that's not
because they were a 2-win team. So I was like,
no, it's still selfish because it's not for the betterment of the franchise. What is it for the betterment of?
I mean,
what's it for the better for us?
You plug Stafford into this team pre-draft with DeAndre Hopkins still on it.
What does it do for you next year and the year after?
Probably nothing.
Do you mean picking him up like post this year? Like if that was still
either one.
You're hoping to get 2 seasons out of him where you can potentially push for the playoffs. Once you're in the playoffs, anything can happen. I've said that
anything
for a long
can happen.
Time,
well, no, if you go veteran in the offseason, it's because you don't have a shot at Shedeur.
Yes.
That's the reason.
But even then that doesn't make sense to me.
Well,
because you're still shooting yourself in the foot.
You can't draft another developmental quarterback
that's not what I'm saying either.
If you go 2-15
at that point, then if you're not bringing in a veteran, you're not drafting Shedeur or Cam Ward or Jalen Milroe, whoever you line.
I wouldn't take either of them guys besides Shedeur.
Nope.
You're rolling out Will Levis at that point again.
I'd roll out somebody. I'd roll out hot garbage again next year if we don't get Shedeur Sanders or Matthew Stafford.
They can't. Okay, hold on. No, I'm so glad.
Why can't they do that?
No, I'm so glad this is coming up. This is an awesome topic. They can't do that because you're going into a new stadium. Miss Amy is not going to sit around for another 2 or 3 win season. She just won't do it. It won't happen. They'll have to get competitive in some form or fashion. They're going to have to figure that out. They can't kick the can for 2 to 3 seasons to try to find their quarterback. It won't. It's not going to happen. If I were the owner, there's no way in hell. Can you surrender this season? And could that be the plan from the beginning if Will Levis isn't the guy? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Hey, man.
This is a transition from one head coach to another, new regime, like you said. But if you miss, let's just say, okay, here, let's play it out.
Real quick. I just want to say this, and then you can do what you're going to say. But let's take a hard, honest look at us as Titans fans in Nashville and in the surrounding areas. That stadium is not going to be full by us either way. You can go ahead. I'm dead serious. Go ahead.
You're not wrong. But it could mean – but one thing you can't afford to do is trot out a team that is not competitive. Because if you build a new multi-billion-dollar stadium and then other teams' fans come and fill it, right, because your team is like, we're not paying for those insane tickets for this, then that is a disaster. It's a disaster to Tennessee taxpayers. It's a disaster to everything. It's not an option, I'm telling you. So
what happens in LA every game? What happens in Vegas every game?
I'm just saying for the launch, right? Like if eventually the team is bad again, then it is what it is.
They've just launched, and it's their owners are. Davis is happy. He's got a 20-year-old wife that he's banging. He's happy. Stan Kroenke's happy in LA because his stadium is full. They don't give a shit what jersey these people are wearing in the stadiums, and people have to understand that. They do not give a shit what jersey is in those seats. They want the seats filled, and the seats will be filled for a new stadium in a destination city like Nashville, whether that's us or it's them. And that's all she cares about, and that's fact. But people are so emotionally attached to this team and this franchise that they don't want to look at fact, and that's fact. She doesn't give a shit.
I disagree. I think she does give a shit. All for actions
like
and everything she's done. I mean, everything she's done tells us that she gives a shit.
I'll tell you, she don't give a shit because she put her money into the stadium. She doesn't give a shit. She wants to recoup.
No doubt.
And recouping
she's a business person at the end of the day, like 100%.
Yes.
And I agree with you. It's a Nashville stadium. They're going to have concerts. They're going to do all these other things to where they're going to be able to make that money. I'm not saying that. But at the end of the day, the end product, the most important product is your football team. And if you go into that football, the whole point is you don't have to be good, B-Will. You just have to sell hope and dreams. And so if whatever players you've added is selling hope, and then you go out there and at least are decent, then you're good. It's fine.
She's got another year to play with, though. She's got another year to play with, though, is what I'm saying. 2025 is another year to play with.
She's got 1 year to play with. And what I'm saying is, bro, I'm telling you.
That's why I say she's got another year to play with, and she can kick the can one more year. I agree with what you're saying.
Financially, I don't think you can, bro. Did you see our stadium?
I just told you financially she can.
There's not even other teams filling that stadium.
That's what I was about to say. I was like,
but
even after this new stadium built,
that's because the stadium itself.
I don't know.
I don't think so.
I still don't think
so, man.
Teams that are on the West Coast are going to be traveling, regardless of the stadium. I think as a business-minded individual, I think she's going to look at that and go, we need season ticket holders. That's the biggest thing.
Here's the thing.
Consistent.
Here's the thing. The bottom line is that when you are a sports team and your sports team is bad and you start losing a lot, like I'm talking you're bad, then everything gets affected. The views on your content, the concessions in the stadium, ticket sales, you have an entire floor of your building that's dedicated to selling tickets. All those guys are standing around doing nothing. I've worked for a sports franchise and I've seen it firsthand. When you're losing, it impacts the entire business. And so the bottom line is getting affected right now. Now, a lot of the times with these sports franchises is that you can endure some losing, or maybe it's an entire year. That you can take on the chin and say, well, this was a big loss. But you can't do it multiple years in a row. That's when the red line starts affecting everything and it gets really bad. And then all of a sudden, like you said, emotional decisions start happening at the top because something's got to give. You got to drain the swamp. Like something's got to happen. So all I'm saying is that this year, it makes total sense, the outcome of what's happening here. You ride with Will Levis, you ride and die by him. Okay, cool. If you die by him, let's go get a quarterback, whatever that looks like. But we have got to find some sort of solution at the quarterback position. And unlike some of these other franchises, the quarterback position has not been figured out for a very, very long time, legitimate quarterback. So all I'm saying is that I agree with the vision here. I just don't think it's going to get kicked into another season. She's going to look at Rand and say, we better have a plan. If Shador's not the guy, we better have a plan to have the guy. Who is it? And so that's the conversation.
What's the most fickle bunch out of every base that money dollar wise? What's the most fickle option that she has to deal with? It's the fans. So
sure,
she has another year to play with because all she has to do is get a really young quarterback in that next draft that'll create that optimism, and it's all there. That's all she has to do. And we'll have plenty of opportunity to do that if she kicks the can next year. That's all I'm saying. Look what happened to Washington. They act like they got a football team now. And all that took was 5 games.
It took a hit on Jaden Daniels. He had to be good because if he wasn't good, you're looking at Chicago's situation.
They have way more PTSD than we have. Chicago has way more PTSD than we have, and their ticket prices for that first game in a garbage stadium was through the roof. It doesn't take much to get fans excited. I'm just being honest. It doesn't.
Yeah, I just don't think I don't think it happens 2 years in a row. But I think
people forget that, man.
But I will say that maybe it's like worst case scenario.
For what? What's worst case?
Kicking the can in 2025. Like not like being too good, like not getting your quarterback, whether that's, I don't know, Justin Fields or Shador or whoever, right? If you just miss on getting a guy for whatever reason, then worst case scenario is you just run it back. But I'm telling you, that conversation, like that's going to cost Rand his job if they have to kick the can in 2025. I'm telling you right now, you can't win 2 to 3 games in back-to-back years for a team that was looking like a contender after an offseason where she emptied her wallet. I'm just telling you, she emptied her wallet on free agents. Rand said, let me go build this thing. They do that. Then it doesn't work out this year. Okay. We knew that was a possibility. okay, now we're going to do it again next year. There's no shot. She's going to lose too much money. I'm telling you, people are going to lose their jobs and it'll be a completely different regime. And that's not necessarily better. So I think that's a possibility.
I think that's a possibility.
Worst case scenario. I think it's worst case scenario.
Could be. I wouldn't be surprised if they kick the can. This whole regime's gone. Callahan's gone. Rand's gone. And if that next coaching staff doesn't come in and improve significantly, I could see Amy selling this team. I would not be surprised in the slightest if she wants to get out on this investment. Would not surprise me. Next 10 years, we'll say.
Well, she's at a crossroads.
Yeah.
Because she's got to figure it out too, right? Like she has a responsibility to her customer base, which is the fans, right? And so I don't see her doing that because I think she's too proud. I don't think she would sell her dad's team because she grew up a little girl watching this football team. She doesn't really, she's probably just going to keep chipping at it. I don't think she would sell. However, whoever succeeds her, it's a strong chance.
I think we overstate the responsibility they have to us. I think we overstate it a lot.
I mean,
I don't think she's completely bought in on this team. I'll say that.
Her first pillar is recoup the investment. She's put the most public. Did she not put the most public dollars besides Jerry, obviously, in a new stadium out of all the NFL?
Mm-hmm.
She has to recoup. That's simple.
She will, though.
She doesn't care what jersey. That's what I'm trying to tell people.
Yeah,
she doesn't care what jersey's in that seat. She has to recoup. She don't care if it's who college fans. It doesn't matter. She has to recoup.
But like you said, the money's going to come to the stadium. I think that doesn't make your football team any better or worse, though. And Jake, to your point, I don't think that she's cooked, and I don't think she's done a bad job. I think that she maybe trusted some guys for a little bit longer than she should have and wasn't maybe as active in her ownership role in the past. But she went, okay, it's time to get modern. Go and get an analytical front office. Go and get an analytical head coach. Let's get modern. That's what she said. And she just spent a ton of money. Rand said, we need to spend money. She said, okay, open the checkbook. So we can't possibly, and then she's building us a new stadium. We can't possibly be like, she doesn't deserve the blame right now, in my opinion. I think the people she's hired has underperformed, and that happens to business owners every single day. Every single day.
So here's a myth about her spending money. How much money did she really spend, or how much money did she sign up for? That's the difference. That owner in New Orleans is spending money. Amy's not spending money when it comes to cap. That's what I'm saying. She signed up to spend some money, but is she converting a lot of these guys? Is she converting these guys' salaries, signing money, paying them cash? No. So that's what she's obligated to spend a certain amount of money. So I think we're giving her too much credit here about spending money.
Well, hold on. She fired Mike Vrabel after giving him a fat extension, so she's paying him that money. They've cut players. They've cut players and taken dead money like recently.
But how does that?
Dead money is cash now, brother. Pay the contract.
Here's the thing. We haven't done that in the past. That's been a long time coming. So
yeah, I'm just talking like
it's coming to roost now,
though.
But it's coming to roost now, and she still is obligated to pay a certain amount of money in a salary cap. So that's what I'm saying. I think we're giving her too much credit talking about she's spending money. Come on.
I don't know, bro. There's
salary cap wise. She spent money on the stadium.
There's plenty of owners that don't spend money and don't even have the sliver of the offseason that we've had. Not just this one. We've had a couple of aggressive off seasons in the past, 6-7 years. So I think she deserves the credit we're giving her, actually. Because look at it, like literally 85% of the league, those are guys that just don't spend money in the offseason ever. And whether it's like they have it or they don't, it's like stubbornness, like, oh, we'll just draft whatever. There's plenty of people that don't. And the Titans franchise recently have been spenders. We've signed some pretty big free agents. We've made some pretty big trades.
What do you mean they don't spend money?
You can look at like Cincinnati. They're a good example of they
Dallas
never shell out
really
money
good
for
example.
Free agents.
San Francisco is not signing free agents, or you see what I'm saying? Like
until ownership changed, Washington was in that boat till this season, really.
But what are they spending in cap dollars? Is what I'm saying. Just because they're not spending in free agency doesn't mean they're not spending money. They're obligated to spend a percentage of that cap every year.
Well, yeah,
and that's what I'm saying. They do that. It's
some of your players,
what's the percentage of the cap that they're obligated to pay? I'm not privy. I'm not sure what it is. Is 75%? Like,
I have no idea.
I think they're obligated to spend a percentage of that cap.
No,
it's a floor spending.
Yeah,
it's part of that's the other side of the salary cap that people don't talk about. It's a floor.
That floor is not very.
It's not
big.
like the MLB. That's owners not spending money.
I'm curious. I don't know what that number is offhand, but
I want to say it's 75 or 85% they're obligated to spend.
Which makes sense.
I could be completely wrong.
No, I mean you might be right, but the thing is, like, you're also going to spend the majority of that on your player contracts regardless. So it's like, you know, dumping a $92 million contract on Calvin Ridley versus, you know, re-signing your receiver that you like Terry McLaurin extension. You know what I'm saying? It's like the money is close. And
we've seen the team utilize these void years a lot here recently as well in the last several years, where that's converting it all to upfront dollars right then and there, if I remember correctly.
That's what I was explaining. Yes, that's what I was saying.
I have to look into how the void years are used money wise. All that stuff is completely
that's dead money that is paid at that time. So I don't know if it's paid immediately, but it's paid at the end of the year. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. But
or is it paid over the course of those dead years?
I think it's up front, if I remember correctly. Could be wrong, though.
Well,
somebody asked Zach Lyons. I know he knows all this shit. But let's go ahead. We're wrapping up on today's. Let's go ahead and hop into these picks for the AFC South. We got a good week of matchups, I think. Jaguars at Detroit. That should be an interesting
That should be fun
game
to watch.
This should be fun to watch as a Titans fan. Colts at Jets. Anthony Richardson back in the starting lineup, which should have been the case from the very beginning.
Yep.
And then I actually have this one backwards on the graphic, but I have it right in the text. Texans at Cowboys on Monday night. Houston is the favorite by a significant margin. And then we got Vikings at Titans at home. Minnesota favored by nearly a touchdown. And we're all tied up. I'm slightly behind on these picks, but we've done a pretty decent job collectively, I think, this season. But let's go ahead and start with this Jaguars-Lions matchup. And I'll just kick it to you, Jonathan. Who do you have in this one?
We're talking Jags-Lions?
Jags-Lions. I'm not sure what I said, but yes, Jags.
I think you said Vikings-Lions. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to spend much time on this. This is a Lions slaughter. Two cats going at it. I'm taking the Lions. Like it's not even close. I think there's a chance that it could be more. It's okay, not just a chance. If you're betting this game, take the over, pound the over, because they're probably going to win by 20 plus points. Maybe more. I don't know. This might be the most egregious score this year. It's going to be bad because it's Mac Jones. Mac Jones looked awful last week. And then it's a Lions team who's looking like the best team in the NFL right now. So, yeah, it's not even close.
So this is actually one of the higher over-unders on the week, surprisingly, at 46.5. The only larger ones at this time are Baltimore, Pittsburgh, and Seattle, San Fran. And then Cincy, Los Angeles. I'm sorry.
I'm hesitant to take points anytime in the NFL when they're that high, though. I really wouldn't want to take 2 touchdowns. That's a lot of points, man.
And I don't think Jacksonville will do their part to keep up with the over on that one. I could see this one being a very high scoring affair for Detroit, and Jacksonville scores like 3 points. Would not surprise me. So I do agree. I am taking Detroit in this one by a landslide. And I am going to predict that this is Doug Peterson's last game as a head coach for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think this is the one that does it in for him. I think they get rid of him on Black Monday for him. What about you, B?
Or do they keep him around to play against the Titans because it's going to be Tennessee versus Jacksonville for the suck off? Hey, pause. No Diddy.
No, I think they get rid of him. Wouldn't be surprised if they keep him around for. I could see us being the nail in the coffin if it is not Detroit. If you lose to the Titans, he's gone. He's gone at that point. Yeah.
I'll take Detroit over Jacksonville, but I'm sort of hesitant to say that they beat them by 14 just because it's the NFL. You don't ever stuff like that doesn't. That's the outlier in itself. Teams getting beat by more than 2 touchdowns. So I would probably take, the points with Jacksonville. As crazy as that may sound, but teams and professionals, these guys are professionals at the end of the day. They'll take their foot off the gas. They got to prepare themselves. I'm not sure who Detroit has next week. I'm sure it'll be a divisional game. It's about that time, so they'll have their eye on that game. That's why I don't think it'll be over 14 points. I mean,
Detroit actually plays the Colts next week in Indy.
Yeah, so they're looking at 2 straight buys.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, Detroit didn't need to play the AFC South.
Really, 3 straight buys.
But they definitely lucked out because they got lots of buys this season. So, yeah, we're all in agreement. Detroit pounces on them. 14 is a big number, like you were saying, B-Will, though. And the next we have the Colts at Jets. And the Jets are favored in this matchup by 4. Like we said, Anthony Richardson back in the lineup. And I think that is probably the biggest tell. I'm going to agree and go with the line on this one, Jets by 4. This is one I would hit the over on. I think they'll do enough. Devontae Adams getting in his groove, Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall. I mean, they've got weapons there. This defense is one of the elite ones out there. And Anthony Richardson just isn't playing on a consistent basis, just like Will Levis is. And I think at the end of the day, Aaron Rodgers has enough left in the gas tank to pull off this win and does it kind of convincingly in New York. What about you, Will? Or go ahead,
sorry.
Jordan.
I'll just make a quick comment. I was just like, this Colts team is a broken team. Like they are mentally as a team, as a unit, just broken, fractured. So I don't love their chances. But yeah, go ahead, B-Will.
I'm gonna take Indy this week. And that's because the Jets defensively have been abysmal since they fired Salah. So, and Aaron Rodgers has been a shell of himself. So the Colts have been reputable in some games, especially in games that they have a chance, right? So, and the Jets have floundered too. They're not any better mentally as a team. So I think it's going to be a lot closer than people think. I'm going to take Indy.
Yeah, I agree that I think it's going to be closer. I think the Colts are probably going to be pretty competitive in this one because I kind of feel the same about the Jets. If we're being honest, we need the Jets to win. Just as a Titans fans, if we're rooting for draft position at this point, which seems to be the only thing to root for.
Do we?
Yeah, we want the Jets to win.
The Jets do have a worst record, correct?
Yeah, they're 2-6 or 2-8 right now, right?
Yes. We need the Jets to win. Yes,
yeah.
I misread what you were saying.
Yeah. So at this point, I think they're just as bad mentally. I agree with you, B-Will. And who knows? Maybe the quarterback shift, and maybe seemingly the last quarterback shift for Indy this year is enough to kind of give them a spark. It looked like a lot of these players were behind Anthony Richardson, supporting him. So yeah, I'm going to take the Jets in a super, super close game, but it wouldn't surprise me if the Colts pull this one off.
As of right now, Jacksonville picks 1. We are at pick 3. Jets are 8. Colts are 12. So yeah, with the Colts losing,
we have the same amount of wins, though, right?
Yes, we are tied up, but as of right now, with all the tiebreakers and all that, we are the third.
Right. We have the tiebreaker on them because they beat us.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, which could be big at the end of the season because it's realistically that we end with the same wins as them. So that could be a difference in a pick, and that could be the difference between Shedeur Sanders and insert other name here. So next we got Texans at Cowboys. Houston favored in that matchup. Houston coming off their battle red jerseys game where they played well, but not well enough to get me the pick. I do not mind them. I enjoyed that game a lot, even with Detroit losing at the very end. Right? Yeah. No, Detroit won. No. Detroit came back and won.
Yeah.
So Houston, 7.5-point favorite. I think that is a big line for this just because it's the battle for the state. I think they're going to get up and play for that game. I do think the Texans are still going to win, but I could see it being closer than a lot of people expect, even with Dak Prescott being out. I think they'll keep it close. And we've talked about it for weeks now. I think Houston is good. I think they can be a AFC contender, but I don't think they're a Super Bowl contender by any means. I think I could see them in the AFC Championship and losing to Baltimore, Buffalo, or Kansas City. I could definitely see that. But I think they do enough this on Monday night to get past Dallas. What about you, Buell?
Man, you said Baltimore. I wish we could see a Super Bowl of Lamar Jackson and Mahomes in it, and not just an AFC Championship. But that's a whole nother story. Loaded in the AFC. But yeah, I'm gonna take Houston over Dallas, even though it's a night game in Dallas and they won't have to battle the sun. But I will think that Houston would probably win against Dallas. No Dak Prescott, which could help Dallas. I mean, you just don't know. But their problem is deeper than Dak Prescott. It lies at the seats of the head coach, and he's abysmal. Yeah. I don't know why they were so bought into Mike McCarthy anyway. You know, it just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I like Houston in this one. This Dallas team is sputtering. McCarthy still having his job is absolutely head scratching. I think the only reason why he does is because Dak, went down. But yeah, Houston in this one pretty favorably, I would say.
Which brings us to the main event: the Vikings at Tennessee.
The lame event.
Yeah, it's not much of a main event, but Minnesota with Sam Darnold versus up against Will Levis. We've talked about it this entire show. It's not going to be a slogger knocker by any means. There's not going to be lots of points on the board, in my opinion. I think they keep a pretty low-scoring affair. I have the Vikings winning 17-14 in this one. I think
2 touchdowns.
I think they get 2 touchdowns, and I think they both might be on the back of Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears. That's kind of what I'm seeing. Will Levis, I think he reverts back to what we've seen more through the season than what we saw last week. I think we're going to see the turnovers. And like we said, the sack numbers, they might be similar to what we saw last week. I think it'll be less, but I don't think it makes a big difference. I think he's just not the guy, in my opinion. Jonathan, what is your score prediction for this week?
I have the Vikings winning. I got them beating us 24-13.
Decent.
24-13.
I mean, we've scored over 17 points one time this year. Just like, what are we doing?
And we got to 30 though. We got to 31, right?
But what did we sell our soul for? What did we give up for that 30-point game?
What did it cost?
Yeah.
What did it cost? I got Minnesota. I think it'll be Minnesota over the Tennessee. I think it'll be 20-10. I got them beating us by 10. Yep.
And we didn't talk about the defense at all in this show, really, but
they'll do this they can.
Yeah, they number one.
That's who I feel for.
Yeah, I hate for those guys.
I want to beat up Will Levis.
But Denard Wilson, I think he's a great coordinator. I think he has issues with converting later down the game. He just doesn't know how to adapt, similar to this offense, maybe a lesser extent. But we talked about it all offseason that he would be this heavy blitz package. We're going to do all these things and line up on man coverage, press on the outside. And we've seen the press, we've seen the man, but we're bringing 4 every time. And maybe that's an indictment on these linebackers and their ability to get home and the pass rush in general. But something needs to change in the defense as well.
Why is Jerome Baker not playing football? Quick question.
That's a good question.
I think it might be because he's just not good. And I think it's unfortunate that we talked about it
saying that Jack
in the
Gibbons
offseason.
Is better than Jerome Baker?
Jack Gibbons has the understanding of the scheme. Not necessarily, and he did have a decent game he's played okay these last 2 games. He's been fine. But Jerome, I mean, there's a reason they moved on from him. it's because he wasn't what we were promised in the offseason when we were looking at him and as Titans fans as a free agent possibility. So maybe
I look
the
back
injuries
at,
have caught up to him.
Yeah, I look back at, if I would have known what I knew now in the offseason, I think about this a lot. I wish Jeff would have just done it that one day in the offseason. It would have been a lot more of a fun season. I wish he just did it.
Yeah. But on that note, thank you everybody that joined us here in the comments. We got Deagle joining us in late. MB, he gave the prediction of 24-17 Titans.
Close to me.
So
MB, that's what I'm
close,
talking
but
about,
he's with
baby.
the other
Optimism.
You got to have it. Shout out to Chef Rand. Shout out to Lowe's. Incredible. First time in the chat that we've seen you. Stevie, appreciate you. But this is
shout out to the guy that said is B Wyland. We might have to change my name on here when I get out of
that was Lowe's. That was Lowe's Incredible. He was
that was pretty good.
We appreciate
shout out to Lowe's Incredible.
If it's your first time checking us out, if you're over on YouTube, do us a favor, subscribe. We got the Tajay Spears signed jersey giveaway we've got coming up here pretty soon. Basically, we'll be giving that away once we hit that 1,000 subscriber mark. We're about 60 away currently. So help us get it there. We appreciate it. It costs you nothing, and all it costs you is really the click of a button. So this has been the Morning Glory Show. We'll check you guys next Thursday. Check us out on Twitter. Follow Jonathan Miller at Esports Valen and B-Will at B-Will TFTV and TFTV Sports. I'm at Glory Days Sports. We'll check you on the other side. Appreciate you. Peace.